Hello and welcome to another episode of Matcha Review with Grassy Notes. It's so nice to have you here. Today is a really special episode, and it is because we are reviewing the Mizuba Tea Company Uji Hikari cultivar. This is a really special blend. At the time of this review, it's already sold out. It has made my every morning so exciting, so special. It is delicious and amazing. And if that's all you need to know, here it is. But stay tuned to hear more and learn more about cultivars and kind of getting into the nerdy part of matcha cultivation. The Mizuba Tea Company was founded in 2013 by Lauren Danson in Portland, Oregon. And I gotta say, there's definitely quite a few matcha companies founded and run by women, but not nearly as much. So it's always really special and exciting. And the company is fabulous. They have several different matchas to choose from, which all seem like high-grade matcha options. On top of that, they have some different tea blends and matcha tools and the most beautiful, cool looking ceramics. Before we start talking about the blend, let's talk about cultivars and understand, because this is what makes this blend so special. A cultivar, especially a matcha cultivar, is a type of tea plant that's been cultivated to produce certain effects. And so the idea of cultivars was first created to benefit farmers. If you are farming a giant tea plant farm, you might want a plant that is ready to harvest in the beginning of May, and then some other plants that you've cultivated to be harvested at the second half of May. You might want a plant that does better in frost, or some plants that are more pest resistant. So these are all variations of cultivars. As this starts to benefit farmers, in the end result, when you have a matcha powder, it will also affect the flavor profile. And that is why for people like me and people like you, it's really interesting, because if you get to know cultivars, you kind of start to understand matcha flavor and also have favorite cultivars and understanding the science of matcha blending. Most blends that you will get, matcha blends, are gonna be a combination of multiple cultivars. Something like 75% of all matcha is made from the Yubukita cultivar. And this is why this matcha is so special, because it's made from a very different cultivar than Yubukita. It's also a single cultivar, so you can really taste and understand the flavor profile. And I think it's kind of a rare one. It's not necessarily the most resilient plant of the different cultivars, but what's really, really special about Uji Hikari is that it is so umami rich, and that is really the highlight of this blend. And if that's something you like, this is just heaven. I've been learning that in Japan, when you're doing tea evaluation, you start with a score of 100. And when you taste different, when you're looking at different categories, let's say color or a certain flavor profile, you're starting with perfection and you notice imperfection, and then you reduce the score. And I decided to try that for this review because I think it's a much better system than, let's say, tasting something and thinking, okay, how many points do I want to add and make this worth? It's much better to see, well, what is it that makes this tea not as good, and subtract points from already a perfect score. This matcha has gotten the highest score. Let's see, what does it say? It's gotten a score of 4.6. I'm a really tough scorer. I know that. So this is definitely one of my favorite blends, I can say. The dominant flavor of this matcha is definitely umami. It's very oceanic. The first time I tasted it, I felt like I was drinking liquid nori snacks. So if you like nori snacks, I think it's delicious. It is naturally creamy. It's also very sweet. And if you like sugar, you know, it's not that kind of sweet. It's matcha sweet. Also, there are some vegetal notes. To me, it reminded of asparagus. I know some people might describe it as edamame, but that's what stood out to me. And then in terms of roasted notes, you know, some people might critique it and say your matcha should never taste roasted because matcha's never actually roasted. It is slightly steamed before it is then dried and then ground up into powder. But when I think about matcha flavor, to me, there's this very distinct taste quality, and I describe it as roasted, probably talking about steamed. It reminds me of jasmine tea, gunpowder tea. If you have actual roasted rice tea, it has a certain quality that I wouldn't, you know, maybe some people qualified it as umami or as part of bitter and astringent. I really taste it as something distinct. So for that reason, I would say that there's a roasted quality to this matcha. There's some of it, but it does not dominate. Overall, all the flavors are really well balanced. Umami is the most pronounced. So if you are a beginner, this might be a very intense matcha for you, or just really weird. I think this is just such high grade matcha, you should have it straight. So again, beginners, you're probably having matcha with a lot of milk, thinking of a latte, something you would enjoy at a coffee shop. This is a really special matcha. It's great for koicha, a really thick tea, and that's very unusual. So to wrap things up, this is now my new favorite matcha. I recommend it for matcha experts, matcha obsessives, someone that's had matcha for a long time and is looking for something new and exciting. I really recommend you do some research on cultivars, and that is definitely the direction I'm headed in next. I have a couple of matcha blends coming that I already ordered that are not single cultivars, but moving forward, that's really what I'm going to be exploring. It's just kind of the gem of the matcha world. Thank you so much for watching. May you keep whisking your matcha and may the matcha keep pouring. Have a great day.